Hello, everybody, and welcome to an extra special, extra new, extra episode 76 installment of Press YYZ, your favorite Canadian gaming podcast. You can catch the show weekly on youtube.com/PressYYZ, live on twitch.tv/PressYYZ, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or on your own time on your podcast service of choice. My name is Alexander Kazina, and I'm joined today by a motley crew of courageous, pirate-like individuals. But before we get started, a reminder, as always, that we here at Press YYZ stand against discrimination of any kind. While we appreciate however you choose to give back to our show, there's no better way to support us than by being excellent to each other. First things first, we are joined today by a guest, a returning guest who has appeared on episodes of Press YYZ in eons past. It is the one, the only, Patrick TheLawMorris. Hello.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Very excited to have you on this show today. Secondly, we are joined once again by Press YYZ's favorite pirate-like individual who has now sailed the seven seas and has many a tale to regale to us from his experiences there. None other than Nathan McInerney, aka _NMac on Twitter.
Yar! I just got back from sailing the ocean blue. Found Jack Sparrow.
Oh boy, maybe I shouldn't have introduced you that way. And finally, we have the man whose head is in the clouds. I think, yes, that's correct. Sorry, we have all these little catchphrase, name introductory phrases for each of our member of the crew, and sometimes I get confused as to who's who. Thankfully, I didn't call you the film baby because that's none other than Alex Ballant, who's on a bit of a sabbatical, but he'll be back soon.
That's the other Alex.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the other Alex of the three Alexes. It's none other than AJ Fraser.
I don't know if I can. Anything tonight will top what Nathan just did for the show. So I think we all must now just exit. This is it. We've finally done it.
I mean, good show, guys. Let's pack it in.
Did I ruin the show?
I wouldn't say you ruined it
or made it, and then we're calling it a day because you did such a good job.
We cannot do better than that.
Yes.
At this point.
All right.
I mean, we still have a lot of pirate talk.
Early.
We have a lot of pirate talk to come in the future, so you never know. Nathan might have more piratisms within him that are just waiting to be unearthed and discovered, like a buried treasure at the bottom of the sea. My name is, of course, Alexander Kazina. As stated earlier, I will be your captain for this evening. But before I fully take command of the wheel of this rickety old ship, I need to throw to Nathan for just a quick second for a bit of housekeeping. Nathan, normally you stream on twitch.tv/PressYYZ on Thursdays or Fridays. However, this week you will not be streaming on either day on account of the fact that you were streaming Sea of Thieves yesterday, correct?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this last week, but my family was gone for like a week and a half. My wife and my kids went up to my in-laws, so they're back now. So I streamed yesterday so I could spend some family time. But yeah, no, we had some fun streaming Sea of Thieves. We got through the first chapter of the Pirate's Life DLC featuring Jack Sparrow. I should probably actually watch these Pirates of the Caribbean movies at some points because I have not.
Yeah.
Wait, and you've never seen those movies?
Never once.
Wow. First three are great.
That's what I hear. I hear it's a law of diminishing returns, and the first ones are better than the other ones. Unlike the Fast and the Furious trilogy. Bumblebee was the best Transformers movie, and it was like one of the last ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was also a prequel, right?
Well, it's a recon.
Bumblebee had John Cena in it, so let's just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a retcon.
I didn't see him.
It takes place before the other movies, but it also retcons some things, so it's sort of its own continuity.
So, yeah, but yeah, we had some fun. We sailed the open seas with my double telescopes, and we had to shoot our cannons at a few things. So.
If you hold up those two telescopes to your eyes, you can actually see zoomed in 3D. That's how it works, actually.
Really? Huh.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to spend the rest of the episode like that. I'm lying.
I think he went to college for that.
Yeah.
There we go. These are my kids, and they look gross inside of them.
Whew.
What are they doing with them?
However,
licking them probably.
Here's the thing, Nathan. That's not the only exciting stream other than this episode of Press YYZ that you're going to be appearing on this week, because after this episode of Press YYZ, you are going to be getting down with some trivia shenanigans with fellow co-host Mr. Mitch George, correct?
Yes. Mitch is a coward. I'm just going to put that out here. That's why he's not on the stream today. He is scared of losing to me in trivia and has decided to distance himself from me. We're going to be going on Jacob McCourt's video game trivia podcast, VGT, when this is done. And we're going to, I believe, try and rate it directly. I might pop out a few minutes early so we can get prepared for that. But I'm going to beat Mitch. No, can't say things like that anymore. I'm just going to beat Mitch. So really badly. And yeah, he's going to be feeling pain like I felt when I went running the other day. So
a lot of pain.
Yeah.
If you're in similar shape to me, that's really bad.
Yeah. I did 12K and I was really, really sore.
Oh, so you're not in similar shape to me. You're in much better shape than I am.
Not to rub it in.
Sorry. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
First he kills the podcast, then he insults our guests. I
might just have to leave. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, with our housekeeping out of the way, let's get into the episode proper. AJ.
Hi.
On many prior episodes of Press YYZ over the course of the past few months, you have provided many a Halo update. Let's start off with your latest Halo update.
Yeah, so over the weekend I completed Halo 3 again. Not it's been a while since I've done that. Probably not since it's probably been about 10 years or so since I've played Halo 3. And my adventure through the Master Chief Collection, as inspired by the upcoming release of Halo Infinite. I'm going in release order, so now I am up to Halo 3 ODST, and it's magical, that little game there. You've heard myself and like Alex Ballant, kind of gush about Halo in general, and ODST is no exception. It was experimental at the time, in that in the time it came out, which was 2009, I believe, and you could tell that there was a lot of they were practicing for what would eventually become Destiny, in terms of some more open world areas that are just slightly sectioned off by other doors and whatnot, trying to positioning like where the AI is going to be and the enemies and whatnot, when you really think about it. But then just the storytelling perspective of ODST is super fascinating. Just in how it, you play as an ODST, you drop onto New Mombasa just after the slipspace rupture in the middle of Halo 2. And you are uncovering, not only things that I didn't really pay attention to 10 years ago. I knew that, in Halo 2 and Halo 3, the brutes kind of betray the elites kind of behind their back, but it never really sunk in. And then to have this game, you stumble upon, you don't fight any elites, but you stumble upon dead ones, and it looks like they've been mangled by a brute, and it's pretty just how much detail there is, and how much lore that I actually care about in these games, just continues to make me happy. So ODST is very good.
ODST was really rich because it was it was you're definitely right. It was them like experimenting for what would eventually become Destiny, and that's evidenced immediately in New Mombasa, like that very first level. But then like ODST is really interesting from a lore perspective because it kind of breaks away from that difficulty that Star Wars has of like, because Star Wars has conditioned us for like, I don't know, 40, 50 years to almost 50 years to believe that like, if there is not a Skywalker involved, then it doesn't really have any stakes as far as like really impacting the galaxy. But Halo is not that way. Halo is much more like Star Trek, where it's a very interesting universe that's populated with characters. And ODST was kind of the first taste out, I mean, in video games, in the mainstream media, because obviously you had the books as well. But like ODST was the first taste of like, okay, this isn't like revolving around with the Master Chief, and it's still a very high stakes, very high impact situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, just speaking of like how it was practice for what would become Destiny, in some aspects they were trying to teach themselves how to do certain things. Playing through, so I don't know if you share the same opinion, but I think there is a slim chance that a Halo Battle Royale could work. But the best way to make that happen is with ODSTs. It's right there. So imagine 100 ODSTs are dropping onto New Mombasa,
they
or something,
have
right?
Drop in their name. It's kind of
exactly
like they were basically meant for it.
Exactly. Like I'm looking the 10 years later, and with the advent of battle royales and whatnot, now I'm looking back on ODST and just like, man, like there's so many different battlegrounds, if you will, on this map that would be spectacular to fight 100 other people in. Like it's still Halo in that it's very tight corridor streets, but also there's a lot of verticality. There's and still a lot of distance, and everything is like kind of segmented off in different parts of the city. And like technically, like at a certain point, the Covenant come in and they start glassing the entire region because of the events of Halo 3. Where the flood-infested Covenant carrier crash lands onto Earth, and the only way to destroy the flood is you got to destroy every spore available, right? So, in whether it be Fortnite's Storm or the Circle or whatever, you could it could be a Covenant cruiser glassing New Mombasa, and you have to get to a certain point for evac after dropping in, and or something like there's ways to kind of like lore-wise, it's all there.
Yeah, like the ODSTs drop in, and I mean there's even like those weapons drops that you get in Halo 2, and then also like there you could also justify something through like I don't know, like there's Covenant weapon drops in those those pods that I can't remember if they were in Halo 3 or not. It's been a while for me. But yeah, no, I've always been kind of opposed to the idea of a Halo Battle Royale. But what you're saying makes sense as far as like lore wise, it all makes sense. It's all already there.
Uh-oh. Can y'all still talk?
Yeah.
Did I have my mic muted?
Yeah, it would have been that you briefly had your mic muted. Sorry,
Whoops.
AJ.
No, that I pushed the button. I totally lost what I was going to say because I had said it and then it left my head and none of you heard it. So I don't know. there was a slim chance, very slim chance, that they could be successful with a battle royale, and I feel like that's one of the only ways they can do it. Even like I was watching a video earlier on like just the multiplayer maps and how they're designed in all of Halo. In that there are three ways you can kill an enemy, and that's with a weapon, with melee, or with grenades, right? And an arena type shooter is basically a battle royale map. It's just not all completely randomized, typically, right? But you know, Halo's got custom game types like a Fiesta mode or whatever, where that is a possibility to randomize drops and weapons and whatnot. And you could even mix in a little bit of Warzone, and Warzone as in Halo Warzone from Halo 5, where it's you versus the other humans, but you're also fighting alien AI in there as well, right? And so, I don't know, something like that. There's something there. I hope what have they got to lose, really? I hope they go for it one day. It doesn't have to be like get Halo Infinite out and good first, and then maybe consider it later. But
and I was gonna say, as you were talking, I was thinking like I'm glad that it seems like Bonnie Ross is like hyper focused on let's make Halo arena, like let's make Halo multiplayer the arena shooter to beat again. And so like I like that they're narrowing their focus to that, and especially with Apex is doing as well as it is, it's like become the arena shooter to beat again, and then maybe broaden that focus and try and take on EA and Apex.
And with Infinite, they've already said that they're for big team battle and stuff. They're going to be doubling the player count for that already. So they're already kind of expanding it. They're already kind of going that direction. What's stopping them in a year from now expanding it again? And then, you know, like once it's proven successful as is, right?
Yeah, and they've been very clear about like their intentions with Halo. I don't know if you heard like maybe a couple weeks ago, Phil Spencer was saying how like Halo Infinite really isn't make or break for the Halo franchise. It's just going to be, you know, in 10 years, we're still going to have Halo. And so, no, I totally agree with you. I think that it's lore wise, it all makes sense. And it's something that they could grow into for sure.
Yeah. That's my Halo update.
Cool. Patrick, I want to throw to you for you to talk about an adventure that you have been having within the stars as well, because you have been playing a little bit of Mass Effect Andromeda as of late, and I'm very curious to see how you have been enjoying it.
Is that the good one?
Been enjoying it?
Yep. Yeah, Nathan, that's a good one.
It's not the good one. So I should preface this with I had never played the Mass Effect trilogy before Legendary Edition. Okay. And I binged the entire trilogy in like 5 weeks.
Well,
oh wow, and you wanted more.
Oh my god, it's so good. I needed more. So now I'm playing Andromeda, and like honestly, I'm enjoying Andromeda because of how much I love Mass Effect. But it's like after Mass Effect 3, it was like I need more Mass Effect. So I downloaded Andromeda and I went and downloaded Revelation. So like I'm playing Andromeda, which is like 600 years in the future, and then I'm also reading Revelation, which is like 20 years prior to Mass Effect 1. And I'm just like I if I could inject Mass Effect into my veins at this point, I would. And like
probably not healthy for you.
My wife would probably agree with you, but I would tell her to go kick rocks. But like it's I don't know. I'm enjoying Mass Effect so much that I am enjoying Andromeda, and I think that Andromeda conceptually is a really good idea. I'm not very far into it. I'm like 7 or 8 hours in at this point. But conceptually, it's a really amazing idea. But we'll see how it pans out, I guess.
I mean, obviously, you know, Mass Effect Andromeda was panned a lot at its release for its weird technical glitches, gameplay that didn't fully come together. But I do know that following its release, BioWare did put in hours to kind of improve that experience. Like, playing the game, does it feel like a solid but not amazing experience? Can you tell that, like, okay, there are a lot of creases here and there that were kind of smoothed over, or was it not even apparent that there were creases to begin with?
That's a really, really good way to put it. I can tell that there were creases that they smoothed over. I can tell that like it used to be an ugly game that is now a fairly pretty game that runs okay. It's like some of the animations are still pretty wonky. The running animation in particular, if you run left, right, left, right, left, right, you know, your running animation gets pretty goofy, but not as goofy as it used to from what I've seen. I have no idea why they designed the default Sarah Ryder face the way they did. She doesn't look human. And I was able to like design a much more realistic looking Sarah Ryder. So that's really good. I feel like I improved upon that. And the character creator in Mass Effect Andromeda is honestly really great. And I don't think that they really made any major changes. But to answer your question, it's good, but it doesn't. But I can see the creases.
Yeah, I myself purchased Mass Effect Andromeda. I want to say maybe 3-4 years ago, because it was conveniently discounted at an EB Games here in Canada, and I'd been meaning to get to it for a little while because, you know, I'm kind of in the same position as you where I love Mass Effect as well, and like I'm totally down to play a lesser Mass Effect experience because I know that I'll still be able to glean and enjoy parts of it regardless, but I never really kind of got around to it, and I suspect I still need to complete my Legendary Edition playthrough of Mass Effect 2 and 3. After those games are off the docket, I'll probably try and find some room for Andromeda, but it's not a game that's like particularly high on my list of priorities ATM.
What platform are you playing Legendary on?
I'm playing it on my PlayStation 4, technically my PlayStation 5.
Okay. And then what platform do you have Andromeda on?
PlayStation 4.
Okay. So I would say one of the roughest parts of playing Andromeda directly after, and this isn't the fault of the game, but one of the roughest parts was going from because I played Legendary Edition on Series X, and so going from 120 frames per second at 1440p to 30 frames per second at 1080 has been rough. But 7 hours in, I'm getting used to it. So
yeah, I mean,
go ahead, AJ.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it's funny how like years ago a lot of us probably would have been like, oh, you can only see the 24 and a half frames per second. Like, yeah. Who cares? Mm-hmm. And now we're all just the biggest friggin' snobs for that because we've been spoiled by it.
Yeah, I mean, this time last year, 30 frames per second was like, it looks fine. And now it's like, oh, God.
Mm-hmm. Going back to Switch games is a problem right now for me.
Yeah,
when I play Switch games, and when I play older games, platinuming WWE
Battlegrounds
2K20 was at 30 FPS was a nightmare this year. I did it right before WrestleMania. I platinumed it. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's just a rite of passage. That
I needed a wrestling game, and it was on sale, and I want to see how bad it was.
Mm-hmm. I've heard it's pretty bad.
It was actually not as bad, probably because of patches and stuff. Still not great. It wasn't good, but it wasn't.
Good that it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like set your PlayStation 5 on fire terrible. I only had one really terrible view glitch, and I wish I had more, because actually that's what I was kind of hoping I'd see.
Before we move on, I do want to know, like, what would you say is like the single biggest selling point to get someone into Mass Effect Andromeda? What's like the single best thing that the game does that's like, oh, okay, sounds interesting, might as well give this a shot?
Oh, actually, you know what? This relates perfectly to I dropped an image in the in the doc, and this relates perfectly to the like what really hooked me. You gotta make it to Drac. So Drac is this Krogan that's 1400 years old, and like Krogan, like lore wise, Krogan, we don't really know how old Krogan lived to be, because
the way that
they just
what I read online is that like they theoretically can live indefinitely, but because they have such a warlike lifestyle,
Right.
nobody lives.
They just die.
Yeah,
Exactly. They just die a warrior's death. And like, I would say the biggest things in the original Mass Effect trilogy for me were like the characters, right? So like Garrus, he's the number one. He's the best boy. But you know, so many of the characters in the original trilogy were so great. And so you have to get to Drac, and then once you get to Drac, it really picks up, and it's really awesome. And so I got this email from Drac today, and I thought it was hilarious. It says, Vetra told me what happened to your dad. I've lost a lot of people over the years. Figured you could use some cheering up, or at least a distraction. This usually helps me. And then in parentheses, Drac has attached 37 images of various rifles and shotguns. 2 are duplicate images. Many are low res or watermarked. Drac.
hell yeah.
And like, Drac is a character that is on par with like the A tier characters of the original trilogy. And I just, once you get to Drac, you're like, okay, I'm going to roll Drac and Vetra. It'll be very reminiscent of like all through Mass Effect 1, I rolled Rex and Garrus, and he's a great character. And then he also, like, his past with Vetra really opens up Vetra and makes her much more interesting. So once you get to Drac, the characters get good.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll definitely keep that in mind for the future. Nathan, I want you to summon the spirit of the pirate that is resting deep within you, and I want you to bring it bubbling back to the surface, because I want to ask you a little bit more about your time sailing the open seas in Sea of Thieves.
Okay, give me 2 seconds.
All right. One.
I didn't even see him take it off.
Nathan, 2
There.
seconds are up.
And you must do it in the perfect accent, the entire description that you're about to give.
No, I'm going to pull an audible. You don't have to do that.
Yarr.
Audible, you're audible.
Mitch, Kyle, and Court and I, we sailed the open seas. As we were going through, we went and we set sail to find stuff, and we got on a boat, and we did boat stuff. I was on the wheel, and I crashed into me rocks and had to guide everything around. It was quite the catastrophe. But eventually we ended up on a ghost ship. And in that ghost ship, we found the most terrifying pirate at all, Captain Jack Sparrow. And the ghosts warned us. They said, don't let him free. Bad things will happen. And we didn't listen. And then bad things happened as we were boarded and attacked by other ships. So we made it through, though. We sunk those ships. But then Jack disappeared. And then the chapter finished. And we're going to do more later. All right. My voice is dying. Did I do good enough?
Yeah, it's fine.
Perfect. You nailed it.
Hey, Mike.
Kozi's very happy with that.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, no. So Sea of Thieves, very interesting game. I did the tutorial the night before because I had not played any of it. And it's very basic in a lot of its ways. Like it feels like there are different weapons and stuff, but you get your kind of main things in the game. Like you have access to a shovel, a lantern, a compass. Now I can't speak for the main hub game because I think that's a lot more open form. Yeah,
I can speak to the main. I could speak to the main game as it was at launch, which, as I understand, not the main core of it has not changed much, but yeah.
So but this Pirate's Life is very it's very platformy, more focused on story, and guiding you around. There's some puzzles you have to solve. You have to knock this skeleton's head down, and then it uses it as a key, and you go into multiple places. So yeah, no, it's really interesting. I think we're going to try and continue to finish off this Pirate's Life DLC on stream. Or not on stream? I don't know. I think we're going to try and do it on stream. And we'll have the trilogy and just focus on a chapter because apparently there's 5 chapters and we went for about an hour and a half-ish on this first chapter. So,
so it's a pretty good amount of content then.
Yeah, for a free drop, because it doesn't cost any money either. Not a bad.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not a bad little package. It's just built into Game Pass, or built into the game, and there was no additional charge for it. So, yeah, it's not a bad little ditty of a game, and I can understand the appeal in it. Kyle and Court, as they are the experts, and Court, by the way, I should shout out, is on the Three Dads and a Console podcast, so he joined us on our mission. And he's had a little more time. Kyle had a lot of time vested into it, but Mitch and I were still kind of new. Mitch drank way too much grog and started vomiting.
I think
over everything
in the game or in real life.
No, in the game.
Okay.
Kyle told us that if we vomited too much, we could actually vomit into a bucket, and then we could throw our vomit at people. Which I tried to throw it at Mitch, and he decided to jump off the ship instead of getting vomit thrown at him. Unfortunately, he drowned and had mermaid had to bring him back to the ship because he could not get back on. So I could see the fun that you could just have going out and sailing. I'm curious to finish this DLC, but to jump in and do a little more of the
base content.
The base content, because I think this is a good introduction to the game and to the systems and such. And this maybe would have been better if they had something like this more at launch than their free open forum.
Yeah.
And then you can go into the free open forum once you understand more about the game. So really interesting. Really interesting thing. Oh, also you can pick up that cat, and when you pet it with using the R2 button, your controller vibrates as it's purring.
Oh, wow.
That's Kyle's cat. He apparently paid for that. It's some sort of paid DLC. And it follows him around. TJ was in the chat and told me to try and throw the cat over the side of the ship, and I tried, and it wouldn't let you do it.
Oh, lame.
So this was a little annoying because this head looks like it's supposed to go onto the skeleton body. And it does, but at a later point. It has to go into a different skeleton body earlier in a different place. So it's not perfect. I don't love the fact that that's available and that looks like it's the solution. We couldn't get that to work and the solution was elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
So, and then that was right, but later in the game, it should have been a way to hide that or not have that. Oh, did we lose somebody? I heard a noise.
Uh-oh. Yep. Uh-oh. Hold on just a quick second.
Oh,
sorry, guys. I got disconnected for a second.
That's okay.
It's all good. It's all okay.
You can put your camera back on.
Oh, yeah. My bad.
Not a problem.
So yeah, good time. Definitely recommend people give it a shot if you've been curious about Sea of Thieves. It seems to be having a bit of a resurgence right now with this DLC. And as somebody who is brand new into the Xbox ecosystem, seems like a good jumping on point for people.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
It's a really cool, like you said, someone who's new in Xbox. It's a really cool game to just I want to play something. I don't have anything to play. I'll just play Sea of Thieves. I'll just hop on with my buddies, play some Sea of Thieves. That's what I think that game is just perfect for.
Yeah. Mitch suggested that we do an episode of the podcast in Sea of Thieves, and I'm really curious to see what that would look like and how we'd make that work.
Yeah. I really love that idea too. I want to see it come to fruition. What I'm wondering though is because in Sea of Thieves you can have random encounters with other pirate crews. Mm-hmm. I feel like the challenge there would be making sure that we constantly have a podcast, going the entire way through, and that there's no moments where the game overtakes us and we're like, oh, hold on a sec, guys, we need to stop podcasting and focus on whatever shit we've gotten ourselves into.
Well, I think that'll be the fun of it, though.
Yeah,
sure, but
it's like the disaster or the garbage truck on fire. Can we not keep it on fire? Also, could we just set up shop on an island?
I guess we could,
but like, it should be a traveling podcast, like on a boat, right? Because that's kind of the point.
Yeah, that's true.
The balance between trying to stay focused and also trying to play the game.
Are there servers where you can't get attacked?
No.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely interested at some point in joining y'all in Sea of Thieves. In the meantime, however, I've been playing another game that was developed by Rare many, many moons ago, and that game is Donkey Kong 64. I've been playing the game for a couple of weeks now, and the game, while still not something that I absolutely adore, does continue to get better and better. I've, by this point, pretty much fully acclimatized myself to the unique way in which it plays, and I've come to the conclusion that the game is, all things considered, I think a better product than the sum of its parts. For all its, technical issues, for its excessive amount of collectathons, for its, annoying bits, for its weird save system, the game is honestly a lot of fun, and I think I have faith that I probably will continue to enjoy it the rest of the way through. It's certainly not my favorite Rare game, but it has grown on me enough that I can say that it is an experience that I'm not regretting playing through right now.
Do you know the Donkey Kong rap yet?
I mean, I've watched it a couple of times.
Rap.
I've watched it.
Can you do it on stream
a couple of times? No, I can't do it on stream just yet. But yeah, there will be a couple of times where I'll boot up my Wii U and just listen to the rap, because it's only a couple minutes long. But I have not yet memorized it.
It's so you mentioned the collectathon aspect of it, and that's really what keeps me. I mean, I'm a huge Donkey Kong fan. That's what keeps me from going back to DK64. Is just like there is just so much backtracking for the sake of collecting different colored bananas that I feel like it's a matter of like it was 1999 or 2000?
It was,
I think
1999.
99, yeah. And like, sure, it was 99. That's fine, but at this point, it's like if a game were to do that now, I would say, oh, well, this game has no respect for my time, and that's I mean, that's kind of why I don't.
That's fair.
Go back to that game.
Yeah,
but it's a great game. It's really fun.
I mean, it's definitely the 3D platformer that jumped the shark in that regard. For me personally, like I'll see how I feel when I get to the end of the game. I have no intention of getting every single collectible in the game. I'll get as many as I need to see Donkey Kong and his crew to the end of their journey and beat King K. Rool for the upteenth time. But like, I'm not going in this with the intention of getting that 114% or whatever you need to get in that game to fully platinum complete it.
Yeah. I mean, even that intention, which by the way, I've never done that, but even the intention, even trying to do that kind of sours the game.
Speaking of Nintendo 64 era platformers, AJ, you wanted to talk a little bit about a news story that I'm certain that all of us caught wind of, which is that apparently a very high quality sealed copy of Super Mario 64 recently sold for $1.5 million as part of an online auction.
Yeah. How much would you guys pay for a old video game?
Depends upon the video game, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like for me, $1,000 would be my like limit, basically.
What game would that be?
It would have to be like, I mean, one, it would have to be like a franchise that's very near and dear to me. You know what? I love Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, the Game Boy Advance game, and that game came packaged with like playing cards that you just can't get anymore because they're like paper and nobody held on to them. If somebody was selling me a copy of Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories for the Game Boy Advance with like the playing cards preserved, I would consider dropping a lot of money on that.
Yeah.
But again, no more than $1,000.
I would consider spending $1.5 million
on that specifically.
On a used video game.
You should have bid.
Yeah,
I should have.
exactly. Yeah.
If that's your budget. I think $1,000 is kind of a, like, for the game. For me, I think it would it would have to be like factory sealed copy of Donkey Kong Country 2 or Majora's Mask. And like you guys see these canvases behind me, there's Donkey Kong Country 2 and up there is Majora's Mask. And so like the two that you don't see are those two. Those are my number 1 and 2 favorite games of all time. But like also, I don't know. I mean, I regularly, like, I'm willing to spend more than $60 on an old game pretty regularly. So like just the other day I paid $80 with shipping for a copy of Super Mario Strikers. Yeah.
So it's fascinating to me because there's some controversy around this one specifically, and that's kind of why I find it interesting. Because eventually and inevitably, old games were going to get this expensive, right? Especially when they receive a Wata Games 9.8 rating. You know, it's got to be in very good condition in order to receive that.
Yeah.
And so this has to be a bit of are they money laundering? Are they trying to what happened? Did everybody who bet big earlier in the year on GameStop now just want to spend that money in ridiculous ways and try and find other ways to turn it into bigger money by artificially inflating the price of some of these old games somehow? Because the previous record only happened like days prior, and that was a sealed copy of The Legend of Zelda, and I forget the rating it had, but and that only went for, I think, it was like between $500,000 and $800,000 US dollars, right? So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No. Finish your thought.
It sold for $870,000.
870. Yeah.
I think that maybe maybe they're money laundering. I don't think so, but I think that what's happened here is like, so just a quick Google search, Vincent Zurzolo holds Action Comics #1, which recently sold for $3.25 million, making it the most expensive comic ever sold. I think that video games are just sort of reaching that level of notoriety and ubiquity that like these big titles, like remember it was a few years ago, sealed copy of Super Mario Brothers, like a first run copy of Super Mario Brothers sold for like, I think it was like 300,000 some, and it was the #1. It was the highest at that time. Those games like Super Mario Brothers, The Legend of Zelda, Mario 64, those games that are like Action Comics #1 level of video games, we're going to start to see that become more and more.
So what? Super Mario 64 is only 25 years old, and it just had a bit of a re-release on the Switch last year.
Before Nintendo killed
you just mentioned a handful of older games that were in arguably very comparable quality. And is it just the timing of it? Because it just seems like somebody had some money burning in their pocket, and they're like, or they went into it with a plan to like.
Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. Do you guys remember that real evil guy who like he raised like the price on like a certain pharmaceutical drug, and then he bought like some exclusive album of which there was only one copy? You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Farmer. Bro.
Yeah, and I'm forgetting his name.
Martin Shkreli.
Yeah,
Martin Shkreli. There we go.
Oh my god!
Has Martin Shkreli like faked his way out of jail, and did he purchase this copy of Super Mario 64?
Is Martin Shkreli?
Is he still in jail?
Bezos? We don't know.
Hopefully he's still in jail, but
I don't have faith in their legal system.
Well, again, he is a supervillain.
Legal system.
He is a supervillain, so he could have pulled off some like, amazing great escape.
He does give very like Lex Luthor, like escape jail in a hot air balloon kind of vibes.
Yeah.
I'm looking at pictures. Yeah, I had completely erased him from my memory, and
like a very Gene Hackman Lex Luthor.
Yeah. So he's still in jail, but on April 22nd last year, he made a request for compassionate release.
Okay.
Did they get it?
No, it doesn't look
That's
like it.
Ironic.
He's got 7 years, though. He's not going to serve the whole 7.
Yeah, I suspect not.
And he's been in there almost 4.
Whew, man. Well, I hope that this was not purchased by Martin Shkreli. I hope that this was purchased by somebody who hopefully will take good care of it. And yeah, I suppose that's all you can hope for from somebody who buys a video game for $1.5 million.
True.
Okay. So and this is obviously didn't happen, but if I could, it doesn't matter what I think of this, but if I could pick who I wanted this game to go to, it would be Kelsey Lewin of Pink Gorilla Games. She has done such an amazing job with like preservation, and I think that her hands are the right hands for things like this to go into.
Yeah, I'm not entirely familiar with her. She's the co-director of GameHistory.org, essentially.
Correct.
Yep, and she also owns a used game store in Seattle called Pink Gorilla.
Oh,
that's sort
yes.
of like
I know of her.
Pink Gorilla is like, almost the U.S. equivalent of what's that potato games in Tokyo?
Super Potato.
Or Super Potato. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost the US equivalent of Super Potato.
Got it.
As far as like notoriety, not selection.
Yeah. Just to wrap things just to wrap this up a little bit. We were just sort of going over what games we would spend money for, like kind of like that. I technically bought 1080 Avalanche for the GameCube twice.
That one is tough to find.
So here's the thing. So keep in mind this is Canadian dollars. I was going to spend about $70 on, I think it was Facebook Marketplace. You know what? No, it was eBay for this one. I spent about $70 on eBay for this one, and they claimed it shipped and everything, and then it never arrived. So it was just like, well, okay, I guess I got to get my money back. So I did. The eBay refunded my money because it never arrived. And then on the weekend, I went to a game store in Midtown Toronto area, and they didn't have this on the shelf or anything like that, but I just asked the guy, hey, do you by any chance have like a copy of 1080 Avalanche? Because I've been kind of looking for it. And the guy behind the counter said, if it's not out here, we probably don't have it. But a guy was here recently, and he's asked us for a favor to try and sell some of his games, as like a, as a favor or whatever. So he went back and looked, and sure enough, this was there. He sent the guy a text, and it only cost me $35 instead.
What?
The only problem is
Canadian.
35 Canadian dollars. So that's like $25 for you.
Oh my God.
The only problem is there's no book inside. The disc looks great though.
Yeah.
But it's in the case, and the case is in decent condition. It's used, but just comparing and contrasting like what I would pay for a video game versus what the most untouched video game ever would go for. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, like, so you made a point of saying it's used. I say that, like, oh yeah, it would have to be like a factory sealed copy of one of those games. It honestly wouldn't be. I don't think I would even want it to be, because I very intentionally open all of my games. Like I don't even just sit them on the shelf in the plastic until I'm ready for them. I buy them, even if I'm not going to play them right away. I open them just because, like, they're supposed to be open.
Yeah, they're supposed to be open, but also for me personally, like the few things that I have just bought like on eBay and stuff, like over the years, like trying to relive my childhood and stuff, I just always make sure it's at the very least complete in box. Because if I can get that, it's probably worth whatever money they're asking for, or whatever the auction on eBay goes up to is probably worth that much anyway. Because the condition of it, as long as it's got the box and it's got the book and the inserts, it's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if I'm gonna pay, like I did with Super Mario Strikers, if I'm gonna pay more than retail, then yeah, I want complete in box. But on the flip side, like, if I'm gonna find a deal like you did with 1080, it's like, no, I'll jump on that without a book. I'll go find a book on eBay.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. You can find the book on eBay for like $5 more or something, right?
Yeah, and then you've got a steal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Before we move on to our topic of the show this evening, I want two quickish updates on two other games that we all have been playing. Nathan, as you know, over the course of the past couple of weeks, I had been playing Astrobot Rescue Mission. I now actually have the Astrobot Rescue Mission Platinum. It was a little bit tricky to get some of those challenge missions at the end, but overall, it was a real fun time. You yourself, however, have been playing your own experience in VR as of late, that experience being Sniper Elite VR.
Yeah, I got a review code for Sniper Elite VR, playing it on the PlayStation VR. It's a really good VR game. I actually use the aim controller, which you can buy with Firewall, and I think it initially came with Farpoint. I think it was called Farpoint.
Yeah.
And this is the closest facsimile to playing. Do you remember the game Silent Scope that used to be in the arcades?
Yeah. You mean the thing that you have the big scope for?
Yeah, the giant sniper rifle. And you'd like look in the rifle and there'd be like a separate screen in the scope as you were going around. This felt like that. As I pulled the aim controller up and down, I'd have to try and get the scope into my eye. And it felt like having that physical arcade experience, but definitely more than your traditional arcade experience. It takes place in World War II. You're an Italian trying to keep your city, a resistance member, trying to keep your city from being overrun. And yeah, you take on this. It's not just sniping as well. You actually get into different guns and into more close quarters combat than just sniping. But it's kind of cool, and you can do explosives. It was a good time in VR. It's been a while since I've played a great VR game that's come out. And this one, in fact, I played a really terrible one, which I'm not going to spend time talking about this week. But This was like one of the best PSVR experience I've played in a while. They took a lot of care with it. It's coming out on all the VR platforms, but it was a ton of fun. And the kill cam of when the bullet goes through the person's pretty cool because it shows you what bones it's breaking and the organs it's hitting as it's going through. It's kind of like the Mortal Kombat X-ray stuff that used to happen back in the day.
You in one of the older games, you can shoot Hitler in the testicle.
Oh, I did hear about that. I've never played one before, so this was my first jab at it. I'll be honest. Me personally, the World War II settings never done it like the war settings. I would kill to see more of a contemporary thing where you're like working with the police on like high end takedowns of like thieves.
Have you played L.A. Noire?
Yes, so I love L.A. Noire. Wait, do you do that in LA Noire? It's been a long time.
I mean, you take down thieves and stuff.
That's true.
Yeah.
But no, it's a fun game.
I'm just kind of curious, Nathan. Are you playing this game with your PSVR unit attached to your PlayStation 5 or your PlayStation 4? Because remember when the PS5 came out, I heard anecdotally that apparently like it ran kind of weird if you plugged it into your PlayStation 5. So I did all my Astrobot stuff actually with my old PlayStation 4 unit.
No, connected to my PlayStation 5, no major issues. So, in fact, loading times were super fast. I think there's a small little power increase on the PSVR. Not enough to make it seem better, but still.
All right. And AJ, I want you to give us all the update on a certain game called Motorsport Simulator.
Yeah, so I previously on a previous episode talked about how I'm kind of into Formula One these days. I listened to a podcast called Shift F1, starring the blinking white guy himself, Drew Scanlon, Danny O'Dwyer, Greg Miller's Irish Cream, and Rob Zachney from Waypoint. And that kind of got me into Formula One and stuff. And I've had Motorsport Simulator sitting kind of in my Steam library for a while because it's a fairly hard game to kind of get into, but it's if you like those the management type games. Did I write the wrong name down? Yeah, Motorsport. It's not Motorsport Simulator. It's Motorsport Manager.
Oh,
that's the name of the game.
For a little bit of background context, we here on Press YYZ maintain a couple of documents where we can write in what it is that we would like to talk about on the show. AJ wrote in Motorsport Simulator, but in fact, what you meant to talk about was Motorsport Manager.
Yeah, so I've had that game, Motorsport Manager, sitting in my Steam library. Steam library, not quite played very much because I just and I ran into it again. The tutorial is very wordy, right? Very wordy and very it'll break it up into little sections. It'll pop up and say, oh, this small area is for is how you control this, right? And like, okay, next, and then it goes over, oh, by the way, this thing over here is how you control that. And just like, okay, let's how about we ease me into it rather than showing me this entire screen at once. Give me a scenario or something to figure it all out. But I powered through it, and I'm a couple races in on a season of whatever the lowest tier racers are in that, and I'm enjoying kind of making my way through it. So it's a good sit back and just click with the mouse on things and try to manage something, simulating something else.
Cool. All right. With that out of the way, let's delve right into tonight's topic of the show. So for tonight, we speculated long and hard on what we would do, and we decided on a fun little topic. We are going to be ascribing different video game franchises to different gods within the Greek pantheon. What Greek gods, you might ask? Because as you might proclaim correctly, there are many, many Greek gods within the pantheon. We're going to be going with 7 Greek gods, specifically 7 of the gods that Grant Morrison based the DC superheroes off of in his run of DC Comics. So those gods being Zeus, Hera, Hades, Apollo, Athena, Hermes, and Poseidon. As stated, the idea is that we're basically choosing a specific video game franchise that we feel best suits each of these 7 gods. However, if any of us wants to make a case for just a very specific video game and not an entire franchise, obviously I'm willing to hear that as well. So let's get right into it. What video game franchise do we feel best represents Zeus? Now, Zeus is a Greek god that we should probably all be very familiar with, even if we're not necessarily super familiar with the intricacies of Greek mythology. In the wikipedia.org article for the 12 main Olympians, it says that Zeus is the king of the gods and ruler of Mount Olympus. He's the god of the sky, lightning, thunder, law, order, and justice. He is the youngest child of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, or Kronos, depending on your translation preferences. He is the brother and husband of Hera, and brother of Poseidon, Hades, Demeter, and Hestia. He has had many affairs with goddesses and mortals, such as his sister Demeter, the Titan Leto, mortals Leda and Alcmene, and more.
And
sorry, go ahead. You go.
Just for like criteria, are we talking about like, are we trying to liken them to someone to like Zeus, or are we trying to say like, of the video game, like obviously the idea of like, okay, Mario and Zeus are both like, as far as like prestige, I guess what's the criteria you're wanting to use here?
Basically, like, what video game franchises do you feel like fully embody the, not just I would say the prestige, but I would say also kind of the personality as well, the specific like physical attributes and powers, or like the best sort of combination of all these various things in tandem.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like with Zeus, you almost have to go to Mario.
Yeah.
I mean,
it still applies.
Obvious.
Yeah, like it's like the grandfather. Like you could make an argument for Donkey Kong, I guess, being the grandfather of Pac-Man, but it feels like the modern video game day age did start with Mario, and he's eclipsed and done more than any other video game character ever.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of who else it could possibly be, just to like not just hand it to Mario. But honestly, like nothing comes to mind. I mean, like
now, the thing about Zeus, right, is, as we know from his description, he's a god who likes to have many affairs with both other gods and mortals. And also, if we want to, delve deeper into Greek mythology, basically he defeats his father, Kronos, and the rest of the Titans. The kind of modern era of kind of the Greek gods begins with the passing of the Titans and him kind of taking his rightful throne. And again, everything that we've said thus far about, Mario being similar to Zeus is true, but I don't really think of the Mario franchise as sort of like this usurper, as this franchise that kind of like took over from this other franchise that was previously king. And yeah.
Maybe Grand Theft Auto?
Ooh.
As a franchise, and like Grand Theft Auto 5's still selling.
Yeah, well, and like Grand Theft Auto 3 in particular was like kind of the usurper of like what Kozi was talking about. If we're going with that close of an analogous relationship with the Greek gods, it's going to be difficult to put any like optimistic games in here, because there was just so much debauchery related to the Greek gods. But no, I think Grand Theft Auto is a good, like, Grand Theft Auto is and always will be a force to be reckoned with in the industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I mean, they like, there was I guess I don't want to say like up to that point it was basically Mario, but like that was kind of yeah.
There was a
Grand Theft Auto
change.
3 was the moment when it was like when it became common knowledge amongst casuals, like people who don't play video games, that like, oh no, video games can possibly be for adults as well.
Because I always kind of attribute the one that took over to be Vice City and not 3.
Really?
Like, yeah, because I don't know, maybe it was just the timing of it, but like Grand Theft Auto 3 was big, and you know, I remember that, right? It came out it came out just after 9/11, and I know they had to kind of, before they did that, kind of go back and change some stuff around.
Yeah.
But then Vice City came out, and suddenly everybody wanted to be Scarface.
I mean, I think that Vice City definitely proved that the first Grand Theft Auto wasn't a fluke. Like it basically Grand Theft Auto. My mistake. It proved it cemented the success of the first game and showed that, oh man, Rockstar Games can put out success after success and isn't prone to speed bumps like other developers are.
Well, and I would say that's the franchise. Like, we don't even have to talk about 3 versus Vice City. If we're talking franchises, I think that's fits that.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact of repetition of like Kozi, what you were saying of like they proved that 3 wasn't a fluke, and that they could repeat that success and recreate it intentionally. And so like they did it again with Vice City, they did it again with San Andreas, by the way, until 5, the best Grand Theft Auto game. And then they did it again with 4, they did it again with Chinatown Wars, Vice City Stories. Like Grand Theft Auto has proven again and again and again that it is like it is the video game at this point.
All right. Well, we had our discussions long and hard about whether or not Zeus is most like the Mario franchise or Grand Theft Auto. I think I'm most convinced that Zeus is Grand Theft Auto. Does anyone here want to make any more arguments in favor of Mario? All right, the motion stands. Zeus is Grand Theft Auto, and Grand Theft Auto is Zeus. For the next god, let's go ahead and let's talk about Hera. Hera is the queen of the gods and the goddess of marriage, woman, childbirth, and family. The youngest daughter of Kronos and Rhea, the sister and wife of Zeus. Being the goddess of marriage, she frequently tried to get revenge on Zeus's lovers and their children.
I mean, obviously the standout of like Hera is the most prominent Greek goddess.
Yeah.
And I mean the most prominent, at least the first really standout female video game hero was Lara Croft.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of thinking the Tomb Raider franchise.
Yeah, like especially, I mean, those first 3 Tomb Raider games were just so good. I mean, Tomb Raider 2 in particular. And like there was this huge discussion about like, no, look at how incredibly powerful and intimidating Lara Croft can be while also maintaining like sex appeal.
Go ahead.
My only hesitancy is just, you know, how quickly we kind of came to that conclusion. Does Tomb Raider fit just because the protagonist is a female, or
I understand what you're saying, AJ. Like, did we go to that too quickly just because Lara?
Just because it fits the cookie cutter or whatever.
I was going to go with a slightly different answer. I was going to say Pokemon, and my reason being that I feel like Pokemon is a video game franchise that has spanned generations. It's a video game franchise that people have enjoyed as kids. Those kids have grown up and become adults, and now those adults have introduced Pokemon back to their children. And I feel like for kind of crossing generations like that, for being the source of like many unions, like I feel like, you know, when you talk about video games that like break people apart, you talk about games that people get really addicted to, like World of Warcraft or Grand Theft Auto. When you talk about games that bring people together, games that like people theme weddings around, I feel like Pokemon is an example that you would go to, for instance. That and like, you know, other Nintendo franchises like Animal Crossing or Mario, for example.
Yeah. I definitely, I see where you're going with that for sure. And I think that a similar argument could be made for Tomb Raider, but obviously not to the same degree. But I think that also when taking Hera into account, and AJ, I definitely understand your hesitancy. I would say you also have to account for the fact that Hera did, you know, did lean a little harder into violence than I think. It kind of like what we were saying with Grand Theft Auto. It's going to be hard to put any super optimistic and like family friendly games on this list, because like seeking vengeance on her husband's lovers is a pretty dark thing, pretty violent thing.
There's some pretty dark stories from Greek mythology of what ends up happening to them. And it's like, man, you didn't do anything wrong. Zeus is the one who's most at fault here.
Does Pikachu catch any of Ash's lovers and kill them by electric shock?
If he does, then I'm on board.
I mean, like, in the Pokemon anime, typically it's Brock that's hitting on people, and then Misty or Krogunk or any of Brock's other companions have to, like, basically chastise him for doing so. Pikachu typically is okay with other women that show an interest in Ash. So I don't, not sure if that stands. Not sure if the comparison works.
Okay.
It's a difficult one.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think at the end of the day, Lara Croft, I would still put my vote towards, just because, like, this Hera's a kick-ass female who takes names and shoots. I didn't say that right, but you know what
takes
I mean.
Names and shoots.
Well, she wants to know who she killed.
Put on the back of the box.
She needs to have a list later when she needs to fix it.
So I do agree with you, and I'm not like totally sold on this idea. I just kind of want to float this out there. And again, like another female, but like Joanna Dark. I mean, Perfect Dark is she. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think I'm going back to Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I think in the discussion of female-led video game franchises, I think that Tomb Raider is probably the better option there. Not that there's anything wrong with Perfect Dark, but I think Tomb Raider, like, it exudes...
It's more iconic.
Yeah, it exudes a level of iconicness that few other female-led video game franchises have been able to achieve. I still think that there is something to my Pokemon argument, but I'm okay with ceding this to Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm okay with either as well. Like Pokemon, I'll leave it up to AJ and Nathan.
With what we've said, I think with what's been said and the arguments made, I think I'm okay with Tomb Raider.
All right.
Okay, then. The motion stands. Hera is Tomb Raider, and Tomb Raider is Hera. For our third Greek god, I want to turn things downward and talk a little bit about Hades. Much like Zeus, Hades is a Greek god that we should probably all be fairly familiar with. Hades, in ancient Greek religion and myth, is the god of the dead and the king of the underworld, with which his name became synonymous. Hades was the eldest son of Kronos and Rhea, although his last son to be regurgitated by his father. His brothers were Zeus and Poseidon. Together they defeated the Titans alongside them and ruled the cosmos afterwards. Hades basically received the underworld as a result of the conclusion of that battle, and he is often portrayed as being guarded by his three-headed dog, Cerberus.
I'm guessing the obvious, like we should avoid the obvious new release of Hades
Yeah.
being in this spot. That might be a little.
I didn't even think about that one for that one.
Little on the nose. I didn't think about
one
that
a little
either.
on the nose, and two, you're not the purpose of it is not to be Hades.
Yes.
Right.
So
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. You go. I'm jumping on these too fast.
I was going to say, well, and I'm doing the same thing, honestly. I was going to say Hades, potentially the Arkham trilogy featuring Batman.
Yeah,
I mean, it feels.
See that.
The problem is that it's a little on the nose. We talked at the very beginning of today's topic of the show about how we chose the Greek gods that we're talking about today based on the superheroes that Grant Morrison chose when he did his DC Comics run. And in case you didn't know, Batman is basically the Hades equivalent in that universe.
Right.
So it's kind of like, well, I mean, it works, but.
So I want to flip this idea, and AJ, I want to hear what you have to say about this Halo, because like Hades is like doomed to a tortured existence as a sacrifice for, and I mean that's exactly what Chief does. Is like Chief's life will never be fulfilling or happy or good, and he makes that sacrifice for the good of humanity.
Yeah, honestly, that's exactly what kind of Halo is, and like in some sort of equivalency, I'm going to dumb it down a lot, but Batman and his gadgets and Master Chief being able to use anything at his disposal to do what needs to be done. I see some parallels there as well.
Oh, yeah.
But lore-wise and everything, and philosophically, absolutely, you're right on the money with that.
Okay, so we're talking Halo. What about Doom?
Oh God, Doom is tough. Oh man, because I love Doom lore, and the fact that at the end of Doom 64. Doom guy elects to stay in hell to ensure that the gates of hell are never opened again. And then in Doom 2016, it's the same Doom guy, but he was like cemented in legend. And so when they reopen the gates of hell, he comes back. It's the same. It's still Doom guy, but like the legend of the Doom Slayer. That's a really tough one. I mean, I'm down for either of those because those are both really right on the note, right on the money.
Hey, so the difference there would be like Hades was like damned to eternity there, right? Mm-hmm. Where that fits more Master Chief, where Doom guy chose that life as a self-sacrifice on purpose.
And also I think that a huge, as strange as it is to say about Doom guy, a huge character aspect of Doom guy that makes him different from Master Chief is so much of it is self-motivation, in the sense that like Master Chief, it's like he does his job because it's his job, whereas Doom guy, a huge part of it is like rip and tear until it is done because he likes to.
Yeah.
AJ, I think you brought me back to Master Chief.
Yeah, I don't. There are no major games that are immediately coming to mind that I could offer up as a counterpoint to either Halo or Doom. I was trying to think of like, what are some games that everybody over the course of their life eventually ends up playing, because I was trying to think like philosophically, conceptually, of like, Hades is the ultimate destination of everyone in the universe. Everybody dies, everybody goes to the underworld, goes to Hades. And so like, what are some games that are so ubiquitous that even relatively casual players inevitably end up playing them? But I think that
wait I'm just gonna make this last pitch based on what you just said, Kozi.
Mhm.
What if it was just mobile games?
I don't play mobile games.
Just for the casual that everybody plays and they end up there. I don't know. I was going to say something like Candy Crush or Angry
I
Birds.
see where you're going with that. You know what? Okay, I said I don't play mobile games. I did play a lot of Angry Birds back in like 2010.
Yeah. But the problem right now, right, is I'm trying to think like what is like a mobile game franchise, because I don't want to go super general and just say all mobile games. What's a mobile game franchise or maybe a mobile game genre that everybody inevitably gravitates towards?
A match 3 puzzle?
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I hate to be a hypocrite because I've never played a match 3.
You son of a bitch.
Gotcha games with gotcha mechanics where you gotta roll and see if you got a super XL gold embossed critter that you can use in your RPG battle.
Games where the main core of it is incredibly shallow and you have to go back to a hub city and build buildings and wait for timers to tick down until you gather the resources required to go and do the really shallow main activity again.
Oh, so Homer Simpson and
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. You know what? I'll still default back to Halo, I think, on this. But I just want to throw that out there and see thoughts.
All right. Majority stands. Halo is Hades, and Hades is Halo. It's too bad that Halo is just 4 letters, because if it was 5 letters, it would almost be like a perfect comparison.
That would be too good.
Yeah.
Doom is 4 letters.
We went ahead and assigned Grand Theft Auto to Zeus, and now Halo to Hades. Let's go ahead and discuss Zeus and Hades' brother Poseidon. Poseidon, again, another very popular Greek god. He is the god of the seas, waters, storms, hurricanes, earthquakes, and horses, for some reason. The middle son of Kronos and Rhea, the brother to Zeus and Hades. He was married to the Nereid Amphitrite. I don't think I pronounced that correctly. Although, as with
Aphrodite?
many of the... no, it's not Aphrodite, it's Amphitrite. It's
okay, cool.
Yeah, there are a lot of I's and a lot of T's and a lot of R's in there. Actually, there's only one R. Anyways, although with many of the Greek gods, he had many lovers. And now I feel like it's easy with this one to be like, oh man, let's go with a water-themed video game like Wave
Echo the
Race
Dolphin.
64 or Echo the Dolphin.
So how about Zelda because of the stupid water temples?
Let's not call those stupid. I love the water temple.
I like the water temple in Twilight Princess where you have to like swim real deep to get to it.
Yeah, that one's great.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the one in North Korea that still gives me nightmares.
Okay. I'm honestly, of the Zelda water temples, Great Bay is the most difficult in my opinion. So I agree with you, Kozi, that it's so tempting to just go straight to a water themed game.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this is just like recency bias, but like not water, but still kind of the vast ocean of space. Mass Effect.
Ooh, I like that.
I mean, the many lovers.
Yeah, there's lots of lovers. Are there horses?
Oh, there's a lot of loving in Mass Effect.
Oh yeah,
that's true. And unlike, I mean, well, I actually don't know this with certainty, but you know, Zeus's lovers carry a certain negative stigma, whereas with Poseidon, you don't really hear about Poseidon being an awful lover, really, in the same way.
Rapist.
Or having a murderous wife.
Well, yeah, because underwater everybody's wet anyway, so.
I'm not familiar with...
That's not what I've heard, actually. No.
Oh, is that not what that...
No.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Poseidon's many lovers in Greek mythology. If I'm completely incorrect on this, you're more than free to let me know. But, I mean, yeah, I definitely get the Mass Effect comparisons for sure. I was actually thinking something maybe more in the realm of something like the Civilization video game series, because obviously, yes, Poseidon, the god of the seas, but he's also the god of storms, hurricanes, and earthquakes, natural disasters. And, I feel like that just sort of calls to mind video games where you really have a tremendous level of control over, the outcome and progress of civilizations, both on the macro and micro scale, like civilization.
Well, as you were reading that, I was thinking of like RTS as like potentially like Age of Empires. Sorry, Nathan, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. My apologies.
No.
What about SimCity or Roller Coaster Tycoon?
Man, SimCity 2000. Ooh, baby.
Because you just create your city and then you create disasters.
Yeah. I love SimCity 2000, and I haven't thought about that game in a long time.
That's intriguing.
I'm fine with any of those RTS Civ games. I'm fine with Mass Effect. It's up to you guys. I think that there's a really good argument for both.
I think in the realm of action adventure games, I would go Mass Effect over Zelda. I think in the realm of like RTS strategy games, I would go SimCity over Civilization, again because of the whole like natural calamity stuff. And so I feel like, at least for me, the discussion is SimCity versus Mass Effect. I don't know where you guys are at.
I want to throw this out there. I mean, and maybe this is just superfluous, but like City Skylines is. I haven't
played that game.
Yeah,
it's
it's
really
a better
good.
SimCity.
You need to play it. Well, everything's a better SimCity after SimCity 2013.
Yeah. I like that game. It's installed on my computer.
What?
It's installed right now on my computer. It runs so fast now. It ran so terribly when I got it. But now my computer runs great.
That game came out like the day before my birthday, and the day it came out, I went into my local EB Games and canceled it day of because of all the online controversy bullshit, because fuck that. Anyway.
It was fine.
No. Incorrect.
It killed SimCity, if that's...
It did kill SimCity.
It killed SimCity. Killed SimCity.
Yeah, and it wasn't even City Skylines that killed SimCity. It was SimCity that killed itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
EA took it out to the shed and shot it.
Yeah.
I mean, just like they do with basically everything.
Yep. I don't know. Like, I'm easy either way. You guys pick on this one.
Yeah, I'll leave this to you and AJ, Kozi.
AJ,
this is...
how are you feeling?
Hi.
Everything rests on your shoulders now.
Okay. Kozi's just like, I'll leave this one to you, AJ. Just everyone's bowing out, racing to bow out.
Give me my options again, real quick. Just run
right
them
now,
down.
We're angling Mass Effect or SimCity.
I think Mass Effect should go probably somewhere else. So I'm going to go with SimCity here.
All right.
I think that's a good fit.
All right.
I'm actually a little bit surprised because obviously you quite enjoy the Mass Effects yourself, and I thought that
I have also enjoyed SimCities.
Except 2013.
Except 20. Fuck that. Now is it SimCity specifically, or should it just be like city builders?
I think we want to hone in on the franchise,
on SimCity, on the original. Okay, got it.
I think it's the original, and let's be honest, there were a ton of great entries in the SimCity.
Yeah, there have been more really amazing SimCities than there have been even like not amazing SimCities. Like,
I wouldn't even say SimCity Reboot is bad. It just wasn't what people wanted at the time.
It's bad.
They fixed a lot of what people didn't want. They made it offline and they fixed those things.
They advertised a lot of things that I was looking at. I was in college when that game came out and I was studying economics, and like they're advertising like oh yeah, you'll like set up the utilities to like influence the economic systems, and I'm seeing that game and I'm thinking like, oh my god, and then it comes out and it's like that doesn't really. It's not in the game.
Actually,
so.
yeah, doesn't actually happen. Weird.
All right. Well, the motion stands. SimCity is Poseidon, and Poseidon is SimCity. Let's move on next to Athena. This is the goddess of wisdom, handicraft, and warfare. She is the daughter of Zeus and the Oceanid Metis. She rose from her father's head fully grown and in battle armor. Her symbols are the owl and the olive tree. I don't know immediately what Athena should be, but I feel like, considering that Zeus was Grand Theft Auto, that Athena should probably be a open world franchise that like learned a lot from Grand Theft Auto, and like upon its first entry was like a success out of the gate as a result of it learning from said franchise.
Assassin's Creed.
I like that one. My thing, though, is that it did take a while for Assassin's Creed to become the open world franchise that we now know it as.
Just Cause.
Just Cause? I've not played Just Cause game.
Oh, man. So Just Cause is basically like... the elevator pitch for Just Cause is like... Bollywood Grand Theft Auto in Colombia with a hookshot.
Yeah.
And like, and there's so much of that Grand Theft Auto DNA in Just Cause. And what you mentioned of like, Rose fully fledged, like, and like Just Cause didn't really catch traction commercially until Just Cause 2. But like, I played Just Cause 1 the day it came out, and that game was fantastic.
See, my only thing is that I know that like Just Cause 3 and 4 didn't quite hit in the same way that 1 and 2 did. And like, again, to go back to the DC superhero pantheon, within that pantheon, Athena is supposed to be Wonder Woman, who is, one of the Holy Trinity. No, she's not.
Oracle. Hera's Wonder Woman.
Oracle.
Okay. That's fair. All right. I'm not as familiar with DC as you guys, so... All right. My mistake. My bad.
You are probably more familiar with DC than I am. I'm going to be real.
Regardless, I can't help but... I think that it's a good comparison. I just can't help but wonder if there's another franchise that we could go with.
Yeah. No, I mean, and like Just Cause was kind of a stretch, honestly. I don't know.
What are some other open world games that we could go with that come to mind? I mean, there's Far Cry.
Yeah, Far Cry.
Far Cry would be good.
Far Cry took a little bit to get going, though, would be my only thing. My only knock against Far Cry, because I played Far Cry from the very beginning, but I know that for Far Cry 1 in particular, and then even to an extent with 2, I was kind of in a little bit of a small club. Like there weren't a whole lot of people playing those games prior to Far Cry 3.
What about Red Dead Redemption?
That's a good one, because that one is game. And
literally
so,
the lineage of Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to be...
By the way...
Yeah, go ahead.
2 entries, 3 if you count Undead Nightmare. All of them absolute bangers.
I mean...
Do you also count Red Dead Revolver?
I was going to say...
Oh, okay. Thank you. And, 4. Thank you. And I can't believe that I forgot that, because I, for the longest time, refused to call Redemption 2 Red Dead 2 because I called it Red Dead 3 because I loved Red Dead Revolver.
I bought Red Dead Revolver like 4 years ago on the PlayStation Network, and I got a few levels into it, and it's not a bad game, but I'm like, it's
not a good game anymore.
This is not a Rockstar style game. Which obviously makes sense, because it wasn't. It was developed by another external studio that was then absorbed into Rockstar after the game's completion.
Right.
Yeah. But I think like Red Dead Revolver aside, I actually think that works really well. I'm totally down to have it be Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, I like the idea of Red Dead, and like, you know what? Not even setting Revolver aside. I love Revolver. I think Revolver is an excellent standalone game, and then also set a really great stage of like, this was a kind of a test bed for, can the Western genre work in a video game? And the answer was a resounding yes.
All right. Nathan, you have to drop out of the podcast pretty soon. So we're going to try to do our best to wrap up these next two gods real quick. If you have to drop out at any point, however, that is totally fine. We'll do our best to kind of wrap things up and keep in mind what it is that you might have possibly would have voted for.
And also just remember to send me your audio right away.
Yes, I will do that.
All right. So without further ado, Minerva is Red Dead Redemption, and Red Dead Redemption is Minerva. Let's talk next about Apollo, the god of light, the sun, prophecy, philosophy, archery, truth, inspiration, poetry, music, arts, manly beauty, medicine, healing, and the plague. The son of Zeus and Leto, and the twin brother of Artemis. His symbols include the sun, the bow and arrow, the lyre, the swan, and the mouse.
AJ, thank you so much for saving Mass Effect. You're the real MVP.
You're welcome. This is kind of what I was thinking. And I mean, Apollo, think about it. Space.
Yes.
It all fits.
I mean, just read that description again.
Yeah.
That describes Mass Effect to a T.
Yeah, I mean, that's... Yeah, and like the whole point of Apollo, right, is like he rides around in a chariot every day and carries the sun with him, or maybe he chases the sun, or whatever. The point is that, you know, very intrinsic to his character is him riding through the sky, which obviously is a huge component of Mass Effect with the Normandy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Good move. Good foresight there, AJ.
Mass Effect.
I'm a thinker.
Yeah. Do you have any arguments against this, Nathan, or are you?
No, I'm fine with Mass Effect. Actually, we've already argued Mass Effect, and I think this is actually a better fit than where we were talking about before. So, no, I'm fine with this.
All right. Well, that was surprisingly quick. Without further ado,
That's what my wife said.
yeah. Apollo is Mass Effect, and Mass Effect is Apollo. Finally, last but certainly not least, we have Hermes. Hermes is the messenger of the gods, the god of travel, commerce, communication, borders, eloquence, diplomacy, thieves, and games. He was also the guide of souls of the dead, the son of Zeus and the nymph Maya, the second youngest Olympian, just older than Dionysus. His symbols include the caduceus, which is a staff entwined with two snakes, wing sandals and a cap, a stork, and the tortoise.
Diablo.
I thought Diablo, like, when I think Hermes,
Diablo
I think
for like Hades, but that was like too literal. But
no, I like that, especially
mean,
because we're talking about currency and commerce.
And even more literal comparison would be Sonic.
Well, no, and
Because
Sonic
of
was
the
going to be
speed
my
aspect.
go-to because whenever you think Hermes, like if we're going to break the fourth wall and talk about the DC Justice League lineup, Flash was obviously the Hermes
Right.
Yes.
counterpart. But I was starting to think about commerce, and I was starting to think like games that created their own commerce systems.
Yeah. Diablo definitely came to mind. And that's, I was leaning heavily on the commerce system too. Sorry, continue.
So Diablo, World of Warcraft, or what's that space MMO that created its own
Star Citizen?
Star Citizen, the one that had the Dust
Eve.
spin-off,
Eve Online.
Eve Online.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't know the game that well. Counter-Strike? Because that's a game that not only created its own commerce system, but also is entirely about speed. There is literally a video online or on YouTube from Linus Tech Tips in which they use a high-speed camera to determine whether or not higher refresh rate and like more frames per second gives a tactical advantage in Counter-Strike? And the answer is yes, all the way up to like, we're not talking like 30 versus 60. We're talking like 144 versus like 220. Yeah, 240. And the answer is, even at that speed, yes, the human eye can detect and react with that extra information.
I'm gonna be honest. I actually am feeling the Diablo comparison a lot more. If only because, so like obviously Hermes is the god of communication, borders, diplomacy, thieves, games. The diplomacy aspect, got me thinking, like, over the past 2 decades, we've seen so many video game genres that previously did not feature like looting mechanics or loot or like RPG mechanics, like take on both. And I feel like Diablo was a video game franchise that very much, I think, popularized those sorts of mechanics and, led other video game franchises to adopt them. It effectively kind of served as a means of communication. It kind of brought the video game like genre together in that way by, allowing those sort of aspects of games to flourish, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a good argument. I'm on board with Diablo. I think Diablo is a good choice.
No, I agree with Diablo. I think it's a good fit for it.
All right. AJ, do you have any counter arguments or?
Nope. But I mean, it was the first thing that came to mind after that description. So I think we're all kind of in agreement.
It was like the first thing that came to mind for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong strong pull for it.
All right, then. Well, the motion stands. Hermes is Diablo, and Diablo is Hermes. I believe that I said Diablo wrong a second earlier. I said Diablo instead. My apologies for that. All right. Well, that's all 7 of the Greek gods that we originally decided on. To quickly go them over once more, Zeus is Grand Theft Auto. Hera is Tomb Raider. Hades is Halo. Poseidon is SimCity. Athena is Red Dead Redemption. Apollo is Mass Effect. And Hermes, last but not least, is Diablo. Nathan, I want to thank you for joining us today. I know that you have to go tout de suite. That means right away in French. So you're more than free to drop out now if you need to. Unless
thanks for coming on the podcast again, Patrick. We really enjoy having you here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Happy to do it. And always fun to have a good conversation with you guys.
Yeah, this is a really abstract topic, and I'm glad that we had some really insightful conversation about this. And it's just not like Mario and Zelda and Tetris.
Yep.
Yeah, there's
Oh, God. How did we not put Tetris in there?
Yeah.
I mean, we could expand it to the 12 Olympians if you really want. The full 12.
Maybe we'll do that as like our post show. How about that?
Yeah, you can do it. Well, you got 15 minutes till you got to rate us anyway. So
yeah. All right, then. Well, I'll go ahead and cue the outro. Thank you to everybody for tuning into this episode of Press YYZ. If you enjoyed what you just heard, be sure to share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and follow us on Twitch. You can also check out @Press YYZ on Twitter to stay up to date on when we go live, and join us on Discord at invite.gg/Press YYZ to keep the conversation going. Patrick, TheLawMorris, where can they find you on the interwebs?
So you can see everything I do all in one spot over at coldnorthpro.com. You can find me on YouTube at Cold North Productions. Just make sure to subscribe. I put out videos. I've been trying to get videos out on Tuesdays and Fridays, and then I've also got a podcast that usually goes up on Wednesdays, but we've missed the last couple weeks. But everything I do, coldnorthpro.com.
Cool. Next week's topic of the show is TBD. Please await on that. And until next time, we want to thank you for playing.
great day.